yami tato Narsimo. Vahe Narsimo, Hridaye Narsimo. Vahe Narsimo, Hridaye Narsimo. Hridaye Narsimo. Madim Sharanam Tapad. Dali Keshavadita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare. Keshavadita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare. Jayo Narsimhadev, Jayo Narsimhadev, Jayo Narsimhadev, Jayo Narsimhadev. Jayo Narahari, Jayo Narahari, Jayo Narahari, Jayo Narahari. Jayo Prahlad Maharaj, Jayo Prahlad Maharaj, Jayo Prahlad Maharaj, Jayo Prahlad Maharaj. Nrsimha Bhagavan ki jai, Prahlad Maharaj ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande.
Hare Krishna. or on the vibrate mode. Please keep your cell phones off or on the vibrate mode. As well as Matajis with children, they're going to make noise. We are on another hall on the other side. Please take them there. So we are very fortunate to have His Holiness Romapada Maharaj amidst us. He's a GBC of this temple, so let's welcome him with a loud Hari Bol! Hari Bol! Hari Bol! We need another mic also. It's on the right.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Gopi Jana Balabha Girivara Dhari 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 Jasodanandana Brajajanarandana Jasodanandana Brajajanarandana Tiravana Chadi Jamanatira Vanachadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabihari Madhava Kunjabihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabihari Madhava Kunjabihari Gopti Jana Balabha Girivara Dhari Pijana Balabha Gopi Jana Balabha Girivara Dhari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivara Dhari Jasodanandana Brajajanarandana Jasodanandana Brajajanarandana Jamuna Tira Vanachadi Jamuna Tira Vanachadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabihari Madhava Kunjabi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabihari Jaya Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivijagacharya Astatara Satsasi Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Shri Sri Radha Shama Sundara Ki Gaur Premanandi Would you like to know a secret? Everybody wants to know secrets. Here's a secret. Shh. One of the things that I've learned from public speaking is you need to know your audience, because whatever you speak needs to be something the audience can connect with. So one of the things that I do to get a sense of the audience is when singing Jaya Radha Madhava, to see how many people don't know the words, because that tells how many people are new. It's a secret. But this group largely, the Jaya Radha Madhava song. Our Sunday program is intended for a broad audience and new people and all of that. So, considering there's some of you who are newer, at least not yet familiar with the words of the Jaya Radha Madhava song, I'd like to share a little bit with you more background on the vigorous subject that we've been covering over this weekend, the Tattva Sandarbha of Jiva Goswami. Even the sound of it sounds like, wow, what's that? So on our altar, in front of Lord Jagannath, Baladev, and Subhadra, down below, there's, as on all of our altars all over ISKCON, there's a picture of the 6 Goswamis. The 6 Goswamis were direct associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, or his followers, and in a very elevated position amongst all of his awesome, perfected soul devotees. Very, very special, particularly in terms of the carrying forward the message of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu through their writing and their spiritual influence, and teaching and training others what that essence of Lord Chaitanya's teaching is. So I have an idea to share 3 things: something about the life of Jiva Goswami, the author of the Sandarbhas, something about the importance of the Sandarbhas, and something about how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave his message to the world. So step back a bit, and according to Padma Purana, there are still today 4 disciplic successions representing the Supreme Personality of Godhead that at that time were still intact and today are still intact. One from Lord Brahma, one from the goddess of fortune Lakshmi, the 4 Kumaras, and Lord Shiva. Each have their Vaishnav Sampradaya, teachings of pure devotion to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Each of those 4 Sampradayas has a principal personality who, from that historical period in which they appeared, they gathered together those teachings in a systematic and comprehensive way and presented, among other things, a commentary on Vedanta Sutra. Why commentary on Vedanta Sutra? Because Vedanta Sutra represents, in little sutras or codes, the essence of all the Vedas, particularly the Upanishads. And so it is presenting them in a cohesive, comprehensive, very tight manner. And so explaining what is a particular sampradaya's perspective, traditionally at least, has been presenting a commentary on Vedanta Sutra. Our line represents this perspective on Vedanta Sutra. So Ramanujacharya did, Madhvacharya did, Nimbarkacharya did, Vishnu Swami did, a commentary on Vedanta Sutra. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did a little differently. He appeared in the line of Madhvacharya, so in one sense, his teachings are Madhvacharya's teachings. And yet, historically, before Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his spiritual master was an initiated disciple of Madhavendra Puri. And Madhavendra Puri in the line of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, not like he exactly introduced something new, but he emphasized in his own ecstatic devotion a mood of love for Krishna, specifically in the mood of Srimati Radharani, in the mood of feeling separation from Krishna, in the mood of conjugal love towards the personality of Godhead. You can read about this in Chaitanya Charitamrita. There's a particular verse that he recited again and again and again, and went deeply and deeply and deeply, like mantra meditation, deeply into the mood and the message of that prayer, Radharani's words to Krishna. What shall I do now? I dina dayadra hai. So, Chaitanya Charitamrita describes that Madhavendra Puri had this wonderful service, or he was empowered by Krishna to introduce this particular mood of Vrindavan, where Radharani is in ecstasy, feeling love for Krishna and separation. Ishwara Puri received that mood from Madhavendra Puri, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu exploded in his own life and his teachings as well. In that line, the worship of Radha appeared along with Krishna. Those of you that have been to Udupi, where Madhavendra Puri had his main headquarters, the main deity is Krishna, Udupi Krishna. And there's no Radha next to Krishna. The understanding was something like this, that internal potency is within. And so you worship Krishna, you're worshiping Radha Krishna, you're worshiping the goddess of fortune along with the personality of Godhead. But the followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in his mood, established Radha Krishna, just like in Vrindavan, when the deity of Madan Mohan was identified as one of the principal deities that Vajranabh, the great-grandson of Krishna, established, Radha appeared by his side, or Govindaji, Krishna, Govindaji. But then the followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu established Radha Govinda. So that worship displays the teachings, and there's symmetry or unity, or they're transparently identical. The teachings and the ritual, the worship. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu didn't make a commentary on Vedanta Sutra. He didn't, because explicitly he considered that Srimad Bhagavatam was already the natural commentary on Vedanta Sutra by the author of Vedanta Sutra, Srila Vyasadeva. The Vedanta Sutra was, we'll say it in reverse order. Vedanta Sutra was more or less Vyasadev's composition. The other parts of the Vedas were existing Vedas which he simply compiled and divided. Veda Vyas. He divided the Vedas into 4. And then from that original large Veda, so many verses, there were some remaining verses, and they were then put into the form of Puranas. He's just compiling already existing, transcendental, eternally existing knowledge in a systematic way to make it accessible in this age of Kali. Vedanta Sutra was more or less his own composition of summarizing all of the Vedas in codes. And after doing all this work, there's some details which we've been discussing over the weekend, but under Narada Muni's instruction, his spiritual master, he sat in a trance of meditation, had a certain realization, or something appeared in his heart, Purusham Purnam, the Supreme Person in his fullness, and so many other details that were part of that realization. And the instruction was, on the basis of that realization, then revise and expand the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Bhagavad Purana that you had previously composed. So this Bhagavad Purana composition is a natural commentary in Vedanta Sutra. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu didn't make a commentary on Vedanta Sutra because he considered there already was one, which was representative of Vedanta Sutra and representative of what his teachings were. His teachings were the teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam. The Srimad Bhagavatam represented his teachings. No need. So there's this absence then, again stepping back from that picture, of a systematic and comprehensive presentation on the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. These batteries don't last too long. There was an systematic presentation of Lord Chaitanya's teachings. It was needed. Yes, Srimad Bhagavatam was the commentary of Vedanta Sutra, but how did Chaitanya Mahaprabhu render the teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam? So Jiva Goswami fulfilled that role, or function, or service. And he did so in a very, very interesting way. He did so in a mood of humble service, that is to say, specifically, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in the course of his travels as a sannyasi, he spent 2 years going from Puri and traveling from place to place, which is identified in Chaitanya Charitamrita, where he went, the place to place. And you follow on a map, and he didn't just follow a straight line. He went, in many different directions. But one of the places that he spent 4 months during the rainy season was at Sri Rangam. And he stayed at the home of the chief priest of Sri Rangam, Venkatabhatta, who had a small son named Gopal. And Gopal had the good fortune of hearing Lord Chaitanya's teachings for 4 months. And Gopal was pretty exceptional living entity as a child. He was, as an adult, one of the 6 Goswamis, Gopal Bhatta Goswami. So he knew Lord Chaitanya's teachings, and because he's the son of the chief priest, he had access to everything, all the library and all the literatures, and he became a lover of Srimad Bhagavatam. So from his youth, he kept very careful notes on Srimad Bhagavatam, its message, according to topic, as a commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam. And he gave, when he went to Vrindavan, with the permission of his parents, Lord Chaitanya said, you stay and serve your parents in time. They'll allow you to go to Vrindavan, and there you can take shelter of Rupa and Sanatan. So that's what he did. So he has all these extensive, exhaustive notes on Lord Chaitanya's teachings that he understood, and Srimad Bhagavatam and its message according to the codes of Vedanta Sutra. And he gave it to Jiva Goswami, who was a brilliant scholar, and made 2 requests. Please put it in a form that can represent Lord Chaitanya's teachings as a commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam explaining Vedanta Sutra. Please. And the other was, don't mention my name. So he did both of those things. In his Mangalacharana, Jiva Goswami says, one learned bhatta, in the term bhatta means a learned person. So he doesn't mention his name, just indirectly says, Gopal Bhatta gave me the notes. And then he composed the sandarbhas. The sandarbhas, the word, it's a particular type of literature, and it literally means weaving. And it's weaving of verses of Srimad Bhagavatam to explain its meaning following Vedanta Sutra. And it's in 6 parts, covering the same subject matter that Vedanta Sutra covers. We'll do over here. Sambandha, the first 4 of the 6 sandarbhas cover sambandha. Sambandha means relationship. The relationship of all things unto the personality of Godhead, because he's the source of everything. Then abhideya, acting in that relationship, and the goal. Priti sandarbha, prayojana, the goal. And it's brilliant. Just a very simple way to help understand its brilliance is, some of you has Radhika Raman visited here and spoken here before, Central New Jersey? Some of you know him. Brilliant. Brilliant. He got a full scholarship at Oxford University when he was a teenager, because he was homeschooled and just was brilliant. So they recognized his brilliance and full scholarship. He did his PhD on 3 verses from one of the sandarbhas. And Jiva Goswami wrote 400,000 verses. One of the books that he wrote was explaining how to write a champu, and then he wrote a champu, Gopal Champu, but he wrote a book on how you do it. I mean, amazing. His scholarship was amazing. And when you read, you recognize how dull you are, or how dull we are, because his scholarship is on another level. But if you take the time and carefully try to assimilate the message, it's brilliant. Systematic and comprehensive presentation of Lord Chaitanya's teachings. One of the quotes that Prabhupada, when speaking about the importance of the sandarbhas, he said, by the process of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, one can awaken love for Krishna. In addition, if by studying the Sandarbhas you can understand the intricacies and details of the message of the Bhagavatam, then your mind will be far more clear and you can receive the message of the Bhagavatam more effectively. It'll help you progress on the path of Krishna Bhakti. I find it like that. It's amazing. His composition is amazing. And it has a particular place in our sampradaya. The followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are sometimes viewed as being sentimentalists. Or in general, bhakti is for people that are sentimentalists. They really can't cut the mustard with, being a Vedantist or a scholar of Vedanta, and so they're just like, okay, they can go over there and do the bhakti thing. Not like that at all. So there's a very nice pastime that helps me appreciate the role of scholarship, of at least knowing what the teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam are. And for us to know what the teachings of Lord Chaitanya are means to know the teachings of the Bhagavatam and vice versa. When Chaitanya, so that the Leela found in Chaitanya Charitamrita goes like this. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was on this planet for only 48 years. Shankar was only on the planet for 32 years. So a qualified person could do something in a short time. So for the first 24 years of Mahaprabhu's life, he was living in Navadvip, first as a young student, then as a young householder, and then at the age of 24, he accepted sannyas, pretty young to take sannyas. And after he had taken sannyas, it was a big shock because of the love of all the residents of Navadvip for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and especially for his mother, because his mother had lost her husband, she had lost the first children that were born, and she lost her firstborn son, because he went to take sannyas, and now here's her only remaining son taking sannyas. So, what to speak of the transcendental affection that she had for Nimai Pandit. So she knew that he wanted to go to Vrindavan and find Krishna in Vrindavan. That was his heart. So she appealed to him, please don't go to Vrindavan, go to Puri. Krishna's in Puri. And if you go to Puri, because the devotees from Bengal, they go every year to Ratha Yatra, and then when they come back, I'll get news of you at least. When you go to Vrindavan, I may never even hear of you. No text message, no email, they haven't gotten that together yet, who knows, no phone calls. So Mahaprabhu went to Puri. It was part of Leela in this mood of love and separation. So after staying some time in Puri, some months, he then made his South India tour, came back to Puri, and then he expressed, I want to go to Vrindavan. There were some obstacles. Eventually he went to Vrindavan, and on his way to Vrindavan, he passed through Benares, a seat of Mayavad teachings. And he wasn't interested in any of that association. He stayed at the home of Chandrasekhar and Tapan Mishra. He gave his association to his devotees. And then he continued on to Vrindavan. And then when he came back from Vrindavan, again, staying at the house of Chandrasekhar and Tapan Mishra, he heard from them that he was being criticized by the Mayavad sannyasis. And the criticism was, he's not doing what a proper sannyasi is to do. He's out in the streets partying, singing and dancing with ordinary people and carrying on like, a worldly person. He's supposed to be stoic and strict and not associate with those people and study Vedanta Sutra, chant Om. What's he doing? So they were criticizing him. And when Tapan Mishra and Chandrasekhar heard this, it hurt them to hear Lord Chaitanya being criticized. Eventually they couldn't take it. They went and told Lord Chaitanya, they're speaking like this. Please do something. So Lord Chaitanya did something. By his transcendental internal potency, that very moment when Brahman came and offered for Lord Chaitanya to come and have lunch, along with all of the other Mayavadi sannyasis. And he would never accept those invitations, and he accepted the invitation. And then when he went to the place, when it was time for lunch, he sat in a very humble way by the dirty place where you wash feet. After washing his feet, he sat by the foot wash. He wouldn't go into the assembly. But then he exhibited his Brahman effulgence that really impressed the Mayavad sannyasis. They really like Brahman. So the chief amongst them, there's thousands, or 8,000, whatever the number, sannyasis, and the chief sannyasi amongst them, his name was Prakashananda Saraswati. So he came and extended his hand to Lord Chaitanya, said, please come and sit with us. I'm not qualified, I can't sit with you. Speaking in a very humble way. And it didn't take long, they got right into it, it's criticizing him. Why do you do like this? Carrying on with fanatics. Bahukas is the Sanskrit word. Bengali word. So Lord Chaitanya said, I don't study Vedanta Sutra like you all do because my spiritual master told me I'm not qualified. He said, you're a fool. You're not qualified. So you just chant Hare Krishna. So I followed his instruction. I chanted Hare Krishna. And something happened. I started dancing and leaping in the air and rolling on the ground and tears streaming from my eyes and my hair standing on the end. And I thought I must be doing something wrong. So I went to my spiritual master and said, what am I doing wrong? And he quoted a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam saying, this isn't wrong. This is a symptom of ecstatic love. And quoted the verse that says these symptoms. So please continue doing very, very nicely on the strength of Scripture. You're doing very nicely. So then the discussion moved to Vedanta Sutra. Well, okay, you're chanting it, it's ecstatic, but what about Vedanta Sutra? And Lord Chaitanya then began explaining Vedanta Sutra. I mean, after all, he's the personality of Godhead who is the source of all the Vedas. He certainly knows Vedanta Sutra, no problem. And he explained it in terms of Sambandha Abhideya Prayojana, because that's how the Vedanta Sutra is composed. And he explained it so clearly, everyone was astonished. We never heard anything like that. We've only heard this indirect interpretation thing, but not the direct meaning. But the direct meaning is so clear, it's so wonderful. We can understand just from hearing from you that you're the personality of Godhead. And we accept you. Prakashananda Saraswati fell at his feet, became his disciple, and all the disciples of Prakashananda became his disciple. And Lord Chaitanya said, chant, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. So that was during Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's life. About 100 years later, Jiva Goswami also visited Varanasi, this time under the instruction of Lord Nityananda, because Jiva Goswami was the son of Rupa and Sanatan's brother, Ballabha. And so he was their nephew, so he was young. Around 100 years, something like that, Jiva Goswami left home, got Lord Nityananda's association. Lord Nityananda said, you should go to Vrindavan, but before you go to Vrindavan, go to Varanasi, and there you should learn the teachings of the Vedas according to these 6 darshans. Many of you are familiar with this, the Sad Darshans, the 6 essential philosophical treatises. Prabhupada said, twice I heard it directly, Prabhupada said, there's no new ideology. Anything that someone comes up with some idea, it's already been written in one of these 6 or combination. Like, then he pointed to this, the idea that modern scientists have, mechanistic science. It's already there in Kannada's Vaisheshika, atomic theory. Many scholars, they also like Lord Kapila's, the atheist Lord Kapila's Sankhya philosophy. But whatever somebody comes up with, it's already there. So Jiva Goswami studied in Varanasi under Madhusudana Vachaspati, who was a Vaishnav. But he knew these teachings, and he was there posted specifically for that purpose. And then when Jiva Goswami went to Vrindavan, having learned all these other teachings, he knew what the other people would say and the counter response to what they would say. And then he learned the Bhagavatam from Rupa Goswami. It was a setup. And then he received these notes from Gopal Bhatta, who heard Lord Chaitanya's teachings for 4 months. So under the order of Gopal Bhatta, Rupa Goswami, and Sanatan Goswami, he then compiled this comprehensive and systematic presentation of Lord Chaitanya's teachings. So it wasn't explicitly a commentary on Vedanta Sutra, because Lord Chaitanya said that wasn't necessary. But it was essentially a commentary on Vedanta Sutra, because it's a commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a commentary on Vedanta Sutra, according to Lord Chaitanya's teachings. It's brilliant. And if you were the personality of Godhead, you couldn't do it better. It's perfect. In the mood of humble service to these exalted Vaishnavas. So now a little bit about the composition, this sandarbhas, besides just appreciating the brilliance of them. We've been discussing, actually, last Thanksgiving vacation or holiday and this one, in 2 parts, the Tattva Sandarbha. I'll just give you a quick picture, real quick picture. There's different sections, mainly 3. First is the Mangala Charana, 8 verses, establishing auspiciousness, just like we do when we do any function. We chant Mangala Charana prayers. So in these prayers, he's honoring Lord Chaitanya, honoring Rupa Goswami, honoring Gopal Bhatta, establishing the fact that he wants to talk about Krishna and some other elements. He says, it's the last of those Mangala Charana verses is, it's traditional, it's proper that when a book is written, because this is going to be a vast book, you do 4 things. You say, what's the subject of the book? You say, who is qualified to read the book? You describe the purpose of reading the book, the prayojana, and the means of receiving it, abhideya. So he does that, and then he repeats it, and he repeats it a few times. He's very consistent. So that's the Mangalacharana. Then, having said, I want to talk about Krishna, he says, before we talk about Krishna, it's proper, it's responsible to identify what's the best means of knowing about Krishna. What's the source of valid knowledge or pramana about Krishna, the topic we'd like to speak about. That's just responsible. So it goes through this long, exhaustive, very interesting presentation on what are the possible means of knowing something. And he rules out a number of them and accepts shabda, or descending knowledge from the transcendental source. That's the Vedas. And amongst the Vedas, the conclusion is Srimad Bhagavatam is the best, we're skipping all the steps. That's the second section, pramana kanda. And then the third is prameya. What does this pramana say? What is its subject? What does it say about Krishna Tattva? How does it present it? What's the relationship between the book and the subject of the book? Just stays on topic. And what we've been hearing over the weekend is, in that Prameya Kanda section, there's 3 divisions. 1, very, very practical. The speaker of Srimad Bhagavatam is Shukadeva Goswami. If you can understand the heart of the speaker, you can understand the subject that he spoke. So he spends some time entering into the heart of Shukadeva Goswami. Very nice. And in short, Shukadeva Goswami, even before he was born, was fully Brahman realized. He had no interest in anything material. That wasn't on the way. He was fully Brahman realized. And then something happened. He heard his father teaching to his students Srimad Bhagavatam while he's still in the womb. So some attraction for Krishna came. And then some details and details. And eventually he heard the entire Srimad Bhagavatam like a student, although he's Brahman realized, to understand about Krishna. And then later he spoke Krishna. So what's in his heart is Krishna. And nothing material. Immaculate heart with Krishna only. So Krishna is the subject of Srimad Bhagavatam, and the means of achieving that perfection that he received was hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam from his father, Shukadeva, from Father Vyas. And then the goal or prayojana, the perfection, was complete absorption in love and service to Krishna. So that's the subject of Srimad Bhagavatam, the heart of Vyas, the heart of Shukadeva. And then another long section, the heart of Vyas. And the heart of Vyas comes to sit in a trance of meditation, and whatever it is that you realize, make that the subject of your concluding work, Srimad Bhagavatam. So Jiva Goswami takes those 6 verses. If you'd like to look them up, you can do so. Canto 1, Chapter 7, starting with verse 4 through 10. And the realization of Vyas is what's in his heart, and that becomes the subject of Srimad Bhagavatam. So analyzing or carefully examining his realization tells us what his heart is, which tells us the subject, because that was what the instruction of his spiritual master was. Then he takes that realization and holds it up against Shankaracharya's teachings. Now, Shankaracharya accepted the Vedas, which means he accepted Vyas. So what's the fidelity between Shukadeva Goswami speaking and the heart of Vyas and Shankaracharya speaking? And it's one-to-one correlation, Shukadeva and Vyas, and it's the opposite with Shankara. And he goes through rigorous exercise of demonstrating that. The message of Srimad Bhagavatam is Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the source of everything. God, it's a few minutes. So it's just, the second and third are also very nice. They're shorter. Second one's actually easier. And that is, if you understand the quality of gold in a gold bangle or a gold ornament, you can understand about the quality of the gold in the gold mine from which the ornament came. Or if you understand the drop of water in the ocean, you can understand the quality of the water in the ocean. You understand the microcosm, you can understand the macrocosm. If you understand Vyasti, you can understand Samasti in Sanskrit language. So he goes down this path of analyzing from the message of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is responsive to some Vedanta Sutra messages, explaining Vedanta Sutra messages in terms of 11th canto subject matter. What's the consciousness of the living entity? And by that we can understand the consciousness of the Supreme, because they're both conscious, one's being a tiny fragmental part of the Supreme. Just as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Mami Vangsa Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. It's fascinating. And in that he deals with Buddhists that say something else. Buddhists say consciousness is not eternal, it's momentary only. You're conscious of something blue, they use this example, and then you withdraw consciousness from something blue, and then it's consciousness something yellow, and so it's moment to moment. Your consciousness is always changing. How can you say consciousness is eternal and unchanging? So he takes these verses from Srimad Bhagavatam and they make it very clear. They're answering that question. In short, it's consciousness doesn't change, but what you identify with or where you direct it may change according to upadhis, the coverings. The body, gross body, you get the body of a dog, and you behave and become conscious like a dog. The place where I've been staying with Premarnava, right next door there's a little dog. Woof, woof. So we have this conversation. He says, woof, woof. I say, Hare Krishna. He goes, woof, woof. I'm trying to teach him to chant Hare Krishna, but he's a dog, so he just goes woof, woof. You get the idea. But, enough Hare Krishna, maybe in his next life he'll become a devotee and he'll chant Hare Krishna instead of woof, woof, because the upadhi, the covering will be different. But he's acting according to the upadhi, unless he gets some more prasadam or something. The soul is transcendental, and the covering, there's this nice teaching within what we discussed. Just like a lamp, like Diwali, just had Diwali, or Govardhan Puja, we offer a lamp to Damodarastakam. So you have a lamp, and It's luminous. And in addition, it lights up other things. It's both luminous and it lights other things. So similarly, the soul is conscious and consciousness. Have you heard that before? The soul is conscious and consciousness. I couldn't understand what that meant. I heard Prabhupada say it many times, but I didn't understand what it meant until I read Tattva Sandarbha. Mayavadis say Brahman, I don't want to get into the topic too much because it's at the time, but they say there's not knowledge and the process of knowledge and objects to know. All there is one thing. Because if you have objects and things to know, then you have more than one thing. So with the predisposition, there's only one thing. There's no knowledge and process of knowledge and things that you can know. All there is knowledge. Or the Brahman is pure consciousness. Period. Srimad Bhagavatam says otherwise. The soul is conscious, and that consciousness extends out and then comes back to the soul and reads something. Like, it's cold, or it's hot, or whatever it is. I wish this fellow would stop talking because I'm hungry, or, something. You're conscious of something. There's like a lamp that's luminous and it lights up other things. The soul is within and is conscious and expands consciousness and becomes knowledgeable or conscious of other things. So the covering will determine the coloration, like the modes of nature, of consciousness, whether it's white, red, green, blue, or yellow light, just passes through a filter and it changes its color. You get the idea. Like these lights in the ceiling. We paint that one, the glass on the outside pink, and paint that one green, and paint that one blue, and paint that one orange, and paint that one yellow. Then the light that's coming through the filament doesn't change, but when it comes down here, it's different color, because it's passing through something. Similarly, consciousness passing through the upadhis, or designations, the coverings of the soul, it looks like consciousness of this and consciousness of that, and the object's changing, and so consciousness appears to be changing, but actually it's not changing. The soul is not changing, and consciousness is not changing. The conscious self is not changing. Anyway, there's this nice discussion. And that helps us understand something about the Supreme, because he deals with the material creation, but he's not affected by the material creation. His consciousness is always pure, but he's also conscious of things he creates. It's an interesting discussion. I can't reproduce it properly in 3 minutes, knowing that I'm supposed to end. But that's the second part of the Prameya Khanda, by understanding the tiny to understand the Supreme, on the authority of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is, again, explaining Vedanta Sutra, commenting on Vedanta Sutra. He even identifies the sutras and identifies the Upanishad verse that this particular sutra is explaining. It's really nice. It's really nice. And then the last section is the 10 topics of Srimad Bhagavatam given by Sutta Goswami and Shukadeva Goswami. That tells you what the subject is. And of all those subjects, one of them is the ashraya of the other 9, and that's Krishna. So Krishna is the subject, and there's many expansions and aspects of Krishna that make up Krishna, who is the shelter of everything. And then we were finished. Because the rest of the other 5 sandarbhas just take those little seeds and expand them, and expand them, and expand them until you get the Sandarbhas, which is a commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a commentary on Vedanta Sutra, which is a summation of all the Vedas. And what's the purpose of all of this? It's not just, intellectual satisfaction. It's to reawaken the natural attraction that we've forgotten of our real identity as eternal servants of Krishna. Awakening bhakti is the purpose, and entering into a mood of loving service to Krishna. That's the purpose, to be fulfilled. That's Lord Chaitanya's gift, awakening love of God. Along with the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, and he did it himself, every day. Every day. He would go and sit and hear Gadadhar Pandit recite Srimad Bhagavatam, every day. So we should also, and awaken our love for Krishna. So just a little sharing with you of this time spent this Thanksgiving holiday. It's been a very nice experience for me, and some of the persons here attend at least parts of it, or if not all of it. Okay. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.